Sign over your trust fund by Friday, or I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. Those were the exact words my sister Vanessa texted me on a Tuesday morning while I was having coffee in my kitchen. Not a phone call. Not a face-to-face conversation. A text message. As casual as if she were asking me to pick up milk. I stared at my phone for a full minute, reading it over and over. My hands weren't shaking yet. That would come later. At that moment, I just felt confused. Like I'd received a message meant for someone else. My name is Lauren Mitchell, and I'm 42 years old. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner in Portland, Oregon, living in a modest 3-bedroom house I bought 7 years ago. I drive a 5-year-old Honda CR-V. I buy my clothes at Target. The most expensive thing I own is probably my Vitamix blender, which was a gift. I'm telling you this because it's important you understand. I'm not wealthy. I've never been wealthy. I work 50-hour weeks at a children's clinic, and I'm good at what I do, but I'm not driving a Mercedes or taking vacations to the Maldives. But I do have a trust fund. My grandmother, Eleanor Mitchell, passed away when I was 28. She'd been a shrewd investor, the kind of woman who bought stock in companies everyone else ignored and somehow always picked the winners. She'd grown up during the Depression, and she never forgot what it meant to have nothing. When she died, she left her estate split between her 2 granddaughters, me and Vanessa. The trust was set up so we'd receive the full amount on our 45th birthdays. Until then, we got quarterly distributions that covered about $3,000 every 3 months. Nice, but not life-changing. The full amount, that was $2.3 million each. For 14 years, that trust fund had just been this future thing. Vanessa and I would joke about it sometimes. Only 3 more years until we're trust fund babies, she'd said at Christmas. We'd laughed. We'd been close then. Or at least, I thought we had been. I need to back up and tell you about my sister, because none of what happened makes sense without understanding who Vanessa was or who I thought she was. Vanessa is 3 years younger than me, 39 years old. Growing up, we were the Mitchell sisters, and everyone always said we were so different. I was the responsible one, the caretaker, the one who followed the rules. Vanessa was the wild child, the adventurer, the one who always landed on her feet no matter how many risks she took. She'd married right out of college to a guy named Preston Caldwell, whose family owned a chain of car dealerships across the Pacific Northwest. Preston was handsome in that Kendall way, perfect teeth, perfect hair, perfect everything. He treated Vanessa like a princess, and she loved it. They lived in a 5,000-square-foot house in the West Hills, the kind with a circular driveway and a 3-car garage. Vanessa drove a white Range Rover. She belonged to a country club. She got her nails done every week and her hair colored every 6 weeks at a salon where appointments cost $400. She didn't work. She didn't need to. Preston's dealerships generated millions in revenue annually, and Vanessa's job was to look beautiful and host dinner parties and serve on charity boards. And I was happy for her. I really was. Sure, sometimes I felt a little pang when she'd post Instagram photos from Cabo or show off a new Chanel bag. But mostly I just loved my sister and wanted her to be happy. We talked every few days. We met for lunch twice a month. Our kids were close. I have 2 boys, James and Connor, aged 12 and 9. Vanessa has twin girls, Olivia and Madison, who just turned 7. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The little comments that seemed off but that I explained away. 3 months before that text message, Vanessa had asked me if I'd ever thought about accessing my trust fund early. We were having coffee at her house, sitting in her pristine white kitchen that looked like something from a magazine. You can't access it early, I'd said. It's locked until we're 45. That's the whole point. But what if you needed it? She'd pressed. What if there was an emergency? Then I'd deal with the emergency like everyone else does, I'd said. Take out a loan, work extra shifts. That's life, Ness. She'd gotten this look on her face, just for a second. Something hard and calculating. But then she'd smiled and changed the subject, and I'd forgotten all about it. 2 months before the text, she'd asked me who managed my trust fund. I told her about Walter Bergman, the attorney who'd handled Grandma Eleanor's estate and still oversaw both our trusts. Do you talk to him much? Vanessa had asked. Maybe twice a year, I'd said, when I have questions about the quarterly statements. Does he ever talk about my trust? Like, Does he tell you anything about what I'm doing with mine? I'd frowned. No. Why would he? That's your private business. She'd relax then. Just wondering. Privacy laws and all that. 1 month before the text, Vanessa had started asking me about my boys' college funds, my mortgage balance, whether I had any debt. I thought she was just being sisterly, maybe worried about me. I told her honestly, yes, I had about $140,000 left on my mortgage, and yes, I was contributing to 529 plans for the boys, but it was tight sometimes on a single income. I'd been divorced for 4 years. My ex-husband Derek had remarried and lived in Seattle. He paid his child support on time, and we were cordial. It was fine. Not great, not terrible. Just fine. You know, Vanessa had said, when we get our trust funds, you could pay off your house completely. Wouldn't that be amazing? That's the plan, I'd agreed. 3 more years. 3 years is a long time, she'd said. I should have paid attention to that tone in her voice. That edge. But I didn't, because she was my sister and I trusted her. After I read that first text message, sign over your trust fund by Friday, or I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are, I actually laughed. Out loud. A short, sharp sound of disbelief. This had to be a joke. Some kind of weird humor I wasn't getting. Maybe her phone had been hacked. I called her immediately. She answered on the second ring. Did you get my message? Her voice was cold, businesslike. Vanessa, what the hell? Is this some kind of joke? It's not a joke, Lauren. I need you to sign over your trust fund to me. Walter can handle the paperwork. It's a simple transfer. I sat down at my kitchen table. My coffee was getting cold. You're serious. Completely serious. Why would I ever do that? That's my money. Grandma Eleanor left it to me. Because if you don't, I'm going to tell everyone the truth about you. Her voice was so calm, so matter of fact, like she was discussing the weather. What truth? Vanessa, you're not making any sense. About what you did to Derek. About why your marriage really ended. About what kind of person you really are. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. No, I really don't. Derek and I got divorced because we grew apart. It was mutual. There's no secret there. She laughed then. It was cruel. Sure, Lauren. Keep telling yourself that. But I know about the affair. I almost dropped the phone. What affair? I never had an affair. That's not what Derek told Preston at their golf game last month. My mind was reeling. Derek said I had an affair? That's insane. He's the one who wanted the divorce. He's remarried, for God's sake. And he told Preston all about how you were sleeping with one of the doctors at your clinic. How he tried to make it work, but you were too selfish. How you're an unfit mother who cares more about her career than her children. Each word hit me like a physical blow. That's not true. None of that is true. Doesn't matter if it's true, Vanessa said sweetly. It matters what people believe. And once I start spreading this around, to your coworkers, to your boss, to James and Connor's school, to Derek's lawyer so he can petition for custody, well, your life is going to get very complicated. I couldn't breathe. You wouldn't. Try me. You have until Friday at 5 p.m. to contact Walter and initiate the transfer. Otherwise, I start making calls. Your choice. She hung up. I sat there in my kitchen for 20 minutes, just staring at the wall. My mind was completely blank, and then it was racing, and then it was blank again. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be my sister. My Vanessa. The girl I'd shared a room with growing up. The woman who'd held my hand in the delivery room when James was born because Derek was stuck in traffic. The sister who'd helped me move into this house and spend an entire weekend unpacking boxes with me. But even as I tried to reconcile those memories with what had just happened, a cold clarity was settling over me. She was serious. My phone buzzed. Another text from Vanessa. Just so we're clear, I have Derek ready to sign an affidavit about your affair. I have witnesses who will confirm they saw you acting inappropriately at work. I have a whole story prepared. Don't test me. My hands were shaking now. I called my ex-husband immediately. Lauren. Derek sounded surprised. Everything okay with the boys? Did you tell Preston Caldwell that I had an affair? I asked directly. There was a long pause. What? No. Where did you hear that? Vanessa just told me you said I was sleeping with someone at work. That I'm an unfit mother. That's insane. I never said anything like that. Lauren, you know I've never badmouthed you. We have a good co-parenting relationship. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by cold rage. So if I called Preston right now, he'd say he never heard this from you? He'd probably say he's never discussed you with me at all. We barely know each other. I've met the guy maybe 3 times, always with a group. We're not friends. Vanessa's trying to blackmail me, I said. She wants my trust fund, and she's threatening to spread lies about me if I don't sign it over. Derek was quiet for a moment. Jesus, are you serious? Completely. What are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? I don't know yet, I said. But Derek, if anyone contacts you, anyone, asking about our marriage or making accusations about me, can you please document it and let me know? Of course. And Lauren, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Your sister always seemed great, but this is wow. After I hung up, I did something I should have done immediately. I called Walter Bergman. Walter was 73 years old, semi-retired, and had been my grandmother's attorney for over 30 years. He'd handled her estate impeccably. I trusted him completely. Lauren! His warm voice was reassuring. How are you? Walter, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Has Vanessa contacted you recently about accessing her trust fund early or making any changes to it? The pause told me everything I needed to know. Lauren, you know I can't discuss another client's business with you. Walter, please. This is important. She's threatening me. I need to know what's going on. Another pause. Then, I think you should come to my office. Can you be here tomorrow at 10 a.m.? I'll be there. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind churning through everything. Every conversation I'd had with Vanessa over the past few months suddenly took on a different meaning. She hadn't been asking casual questions. She'd been gathering intelligence, planning. But why? Why would my sister, my successful, wealthy sister who had everything, want to steal my trust fund? The answer to that question would turn out to be far worse than I could have imagined. Walter Bergman's office was in downtown Portland, in one of those older buildings with actual character, crown molding, hardwood floors, and windows that looked out over the city. I'd been there a handful of times over the years, always for routine trust fund business. This time felt different. Walter's secretary, Margaret, gave me a sympathetic smile as she showed me in. That was my first clue that this was bad. Walter stood up when I entered, which he didn't usually do. He was a tall man, still fit for his age, with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He gestured to the chair across from his massive oak desk. Coffee. Water, he offered. Just answers, please. He nodded slowly and sat down. I want to start by saying that what I'm about to tell you is highly irregular. Under normal circumstances, attorney-client privilege would prevent me from discussing this at all. However, given the threat you've received and the nature of what's been happening, I believe I have an ethical obligation to inform you. My heart was pounding. Okay. Vanessa has contacted me 17 times in the past 6 months regarding her trust fund. 17 times. I'd contacted him maybe 5 times in 14 years. What did she want? Initially, she wanted to know if there was any way to access the principal early. I explained, as I have before, that your grandmother's trust was set up with very specific conditions. The full amount is released on your 45th birthday, with no exceptions for early withdrawal beyond the quarterly distributions. And she wasn't satisfied with that answer. No. She became increasingly insistent. She offered to pay me additional fees if I could find a loophole. She suggested we could claim a medical emergency or financial hardship. I explained that the trust language doesn't allow for that, and even if it did, she would need to prove genuine hardship, which, he paused delicately, which she doesn't have because she's married to Preston Caldwell. Correct. She then asked if there was any way to borrow against the trust. Again, no. The trust explicitly prohibits using it as collateral for loans. I was starting to get a very bad feeling. What happened next? Walter opened a file on his desk. 3 months ago, Vanessa retained a different attorney, Thomas Crawford, someone who specializes in estate litigation, to examine the trust documents and see if they could be challenged or broken. Can they be? Absolutely not. Your grandmother worked with me to create an ironclad trust. We anticipated that beneficiaries might face financial pressure or want early access, and we specifically designed the trust to prevent that. There's no legal mechanism to break it. So Vanessa found out she couldn't get her own money early, and she decided to take mine instead. That's what I'm concerned about, yes. Walter pulled out another document. 2 weeks ago, Vanessa came to my office with a notarized letter, allegedly from you, stating that you wanted to gift your entire trust fund to her and asking me to prepare the necessary transfer documents. My mouth fell open. I never signed anything like that. I know. That's why I refused to process it. The signature didn't match your signature on file, and more importantly, I know you well enough to know you would never do something like this without speaking to me first. I told Vanessa the letter was unacceptable and that I would need to meet with you in person to verify any such request. What did she say? She became very angry, accused me of being unprofessional, threatened to report me to the Bar Association. Then she left. He looked at me over his glasses. Lauren, I need to ask you directly. Are you being coerced or threatened in any way? I pulled out my phone and showed him the text messages from Vanessa. His expression darkened as he read them. This is attempted extortion. I know. You need to go to the police. With what? She hasn't actually done anything yet. These are just threats. These are criminal threats, Lauren. And the forged letter, that's forgery, possibly identity theft. But I don't understand why. My voice cracked slightly. Why does she need money so badly? Preston's dealerships are hugely successful. They're rich. Walter was quiet for a long moment. I shouldn't tell you this, but given the circumstances. Lauren, I have reason to believe that Preston and Vanessa are not as financially secure as they appear to be. What do you mean? I know Preston's business attorney, Richard Hu. We play golf together. About 8 months ago, Richard mentioned in passing that Preston was dealing with some significant business challenges. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now. What kind of challenges? I can't say for certain. Attorney-client privilege applies there too, but Richard mentioned something about bad investments and partnership disputes. If I had to guess, I'd say Preston's car dealerships may not be doing as well as everyone thinks. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but I still didn't have the full picture. Walter, what should I do? First, you need to document everything. Every threat, every communication. Second, I would strongly recommend hiring an attorney of your own, someone who specializes in family law and estate disputes. Third, you need to put Vanessa on notice that her behavior is unacceptable and criminal. If I do that, she'll follow through on her threats. She'll spread lies about me. Let her, Walter said firmly. You have the truth on your side. And Lauren, I want you to know something. Your grandmother specifically included a clause in the trust for situations like this. If any beneficiary attempts to defraud, coerce, or illegally obtain another beneficiary's inheritance, they forfeit their own share entirely. I stared at him. You mean, if we can prove that Vanessa attempted to extort your trust fund, she loses her own. The full $2.3 million would be redistributed according to the contingency provisions in the trust, which in this case would go to designated charities. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a small spark of something that might have been hope. Or maybe it was something darker. Justice. What would I need to prove that? I asked. The forged letter is a good start. The threatening text messages. Any other evidence of coercion or fraudulent behavior. The more documentation you have, the stronger the case. I thought about my sister, about the life she'd built, about how desperate she must be to risk everything like this. And then I thought about what she was willing to do to me, her own sister, to get what she wanted. Okay, I said. Tell me exactly what I need to do. I left Walter's office with a plan and a referral to a family law attorney named Patricia Chen, who specialized in complex estate disputes. Walter described her as brilliant and ruthless, which sounded exactly like what I needed. I called her from my car. Patricia could see me that afternoon. Her office was in the Pearl District, all glass and steel, very modern. She was in her mid-50s, sharply dressed in a navy suit, with reading glasses hanging on a chain around her neck. I told her everything. The threats, the forged letter, my conversation with Derek, what Walter had told me about Preston's possible financial troubles. She took notes on a yellow legal pad, her expression neutral and professional. When I finished, she set down her pen. Here's what we're dealing with. Your sister has committed at least 2 crimes, attempted extortion and forgery, possibly fraud as well, depending on what else we uncover. The question is, what do you want the outcome to be? I want her to stop threatening me, I said, and I want to make sure she can never do this again. Do you want her prosecuted? I hesitated. Despite everything, she was still my sister. I don't know. Maybe just the threat of prosecution would be enough to stop her. Patricia gave me a look that suggested I was being naive. Lauren, from what you've told me, your sister is desperate. Desperate people don't stop until they're forced to stop. Right now, she thinks she can bully you into giving her what she wants. We need to show her she's wrong, and there need to be consequences. What do you recommend? First, we gather more evidence. I want to understand exactly how dire her financial situation is. If she's this desperate for your money, there's a reason. We need to know what it is. How do we find that out? I have an investigator I work with. His name is Marcus Wade. He's very good at uncovering financial information that people would prefer to keep hidden. She made a call, and Marcus was able to meet with us within the hour. Marcus Wade was not what I expected. I'd been picturing someone from a noir movie, trench coat, fedora, gravelly voice. Instead, Marcus was a stocky black man in his early 40s, wearing jeans and a Portland Trail Blazers hoodie. He had kind eyes and an easy smile. Estate dispute, he asked as he sat down. Sister trying to extort money, Patricia said. We need a complete financial workup on Vanessa Mitchell Caldwell and Preston Caldwell. Business holdings, personal assets, debts, everything. Marcus pulled out a tablet. Give me the basic information. I told him everything I knew. Preston's car dealerships, their home address, Vanessa's social media presence, the country club membership. This is good, Marcus said. People who live like this usually leave a very clear paper trail. They want people to see their success. They're not thinking about hiding anything until it's too late. He looked at me. How quickly do you need this? She's given me until Friday to sign over my trust fund, I said. That's 3 days from now. I'll have preliminary findings by tomorrow evening, Marcus said. Full report by Thursday. After he left, Patricia and I discussed strategy. You need to not respond to Vanessa's deadline, she said. Don't engage with her threats at all. Let Friday pass. Let her wonder what you're doing. What if she follows through? What if she starts spreading lies about me? Then we sue her for defamation, and we use that as additional evidence of her pattern of harassment. Lauren, I know this is scary, but you need to trust me. The worst thing you can do right now is show fear or compliance. Your sister is counting on you being too intimidated to fight back. I've never been good at confrontation, I admitted. You don't have to confront her, Patricia said. That's what you're paying me for. You just need to stand your ground and let me handle the rest. I drove home feeling slightly better but still terrified. That evening, I got another text from Vanessa. Thinking about my offer? Clock's ticking. Friday at 5. I showed it to Patricia over text. She replied immediately. Perfect. Save it. Don't respond. Wednesday morning, I went to work like normal, though normal was relative. I kept checking my phone, waiting for Vanessa to start her campaign of lies. But nothing came. I had lunch with my best friend, Rachel, a nurse practitioner who worked in the same clinic. I told her everything. Rachel had met Vanessa many times and had always liked her. I can't believe this, Rachel kept saying. Vanessa? Really? I know. What are you going to do? Fight back, I said. I have to. Wednesday afternoon, Marcus called. I've got your preliminary findings. Can you come to Patricia's office? I left work early and drove downtown. Patricia and Marcus were waiting for me in her conference room, and the look on their faces told me they'd found something significant. Marcus opened a folder. Okay, so here's what I've uncovered in the last 24 hours. Preston Caldwell's car dealership empire is in serious trouble. He spread out documents on the table. 3 years ago, Preston decided to expand aggressively. He bought 2 additional dealerships, one in Tacoma, one in Eugene. He paid a combined $8.3 million for them, financing most of it with business loans. The plan was that the dealerships would generate enough revenue to cover the debt and then some. But they didn't. I asked. Oh, they did. For about 18 months. Then the pandemic hit, supply chain issues started affecting car inventories, and sales dropped across the board. The Tacoma dealership, in particular, has been hemorrhaging money. It's currently losing about $75,000 a month. I did the quick math. That's $900,000 a year. Correct. Preston has been propping it up with revenue from his original Portland dealerships, but that's creating a cash flow problem. He's also got about $2.1 million in outstanding business loans that are coming due in the next 18 months. Marcus pulled out another document. Then there's the personal side. Preston and Vanessa's lifestyle is expensive. That house, $6,200 a month mortgage. Country club membership, $24,000 a year. 2 luxury car leases, $2,400 a month combined. Private school for the twins, $32,000 a year. And that's before we get into things like vacations, shopping, dining out, all the extras. How much are they spending annually? Patricia asked. Best estimate? Around $380,000 a year on personal expenses alone. Preston's businesses were generating enough to cover that when things were good, but now they're in trouble. How much trouble? I asked. Marcus met my eyes. They're about 6 months from bankruptcy, if something doesn't change. The room was silent for a moment. That's why Vanessa needs my trust fund, I said slowly. $2.3 million would solve all their problems. It would buy them time, yes, Marcus agreed. Pay down the business loans, cover their personal expenses for a couple years, while they try to turn the dealerships around or sell them without taking a massive loss. What about Vanessa's own trust fund? Patricia asked. She's getting that in a few years anyway. That's the thing, Marcus said. A few years is too long. The business loans are due before then. They need money now. I felt sick. My sister's entire life was a beautiful facade, and behind it, everything was crumbling. And instead of asking me for help, instead of being honest with me, she decided to threaten and extort me. There's more, Marcus said. Vanessa has run up about $87,000 in credit card debt over the past year. She's been paying the minimum payments, but that's going to become unsustainable soon. Preston doesn't know, does he? I asked. Marcus shrugged. Hard to say, but the credit cards are in her name only, so it's possible she's been hiding it from him. Patricia leaned back in her chair. This is very good for our case. It establishes clear motive for the extortion attempt. Lauren, I need to ask you something. Are you prepared for this to potentially destroy your relationship with your sister permanently? I thought about Vanessa's text messages, about the forged letter, about her willingness to spread lies about me to threaten my career and my custody of my children. I think she already destroyed our relationship, I said quietly. I just didn't know it yet. Then here's what we're going to do, Patricia said. She outlined a plan that was both elegant and ruthless. By the time I left her office, I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Powerful. Friday arrived. I went to work, took care of patients, ate lunch with Rachel, and tried to act like it was a normal day. But every time I checked my phone, I expected to see messages from Vanessa. Threats escalating, demands getting more desperate, but there was nothing. Radio silence. At 3 p.m., my phone finally buzzed. Last chance, Lauren. 2 hours. Make the right choice. I showed it to Patricia via text. She replied, Don't respond. We're ready for whatever comes next. 5 p.m. came and went. I was at home by then, having picked up James and Connor from after-school care. We were making spaghetti together. Connor was in charge of garlic bread. James was helping me with the sauce. When my phone started ringing. Vanessa. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Again, I let it go to voicemail. The third time, I answered and put it on speaker, gesturing for the boys to be quiet. I'd already talked to them about Aunt Vanessa having some grown-up problems, and that things might be tense for a while. Lauren, Vanessa's voice was tight. You didn't call Walter? No, I didn't. You're making a huge mistake. I don't think so. There was a pause. You really want to do this the hard way? Vanessa, what I want is for you to get help. You're clearly going through something, and instead of being honest with me about it, you're threatening me. That's not okay. Oh, Don't give me that patronizing therapist voice, she snapped. You have no idea what my life is like. Then tell me. Talk to me like a sister instead of. I'm done talking. You had your chance. By Monday morning, everyone you work with is going to know what kind of person you really are. There's nothing to know, Vanessa. Whatever lies you're planning to tell, they won't hold up because they're not true. We'll see. She hung up. My hands were shaking, but Connor tugged on my sleeve. Mom, is Aunt Vanessa okay? She's going through a hard time, buddy, I said. But it's going to be okay. I hoped I was right. Saturday passed quietly. I took the boys to soccer practice, ran errands, and tried to act normal. But I was constantly checking my phone, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sunday morning, it dropped. I woke up to 3 missed calls from my boss, Dr. Helen Reeves, and a text. Lauren, please call me as soon as possible. We need to discuss something urgent. My stomach churned. I called her back immediately. Lauren, Dr. Reeves said, her voice carefully neutral. I received a very concerning email this morning from someone claiming to be a patient's mother. She's making some serious allegations about your professional conduct. What kind of allegations? She's claiming that you were involved in an inappropriate relationship with Dr. James Morrison and that you've been neglecting your duties at the clinic because of personal issues. She's also suggesting that you may have accessed patient files inappropriately. Dr. Morrison was the pediatrician I worked most closely with. He was 58 years old, happily married for 30 years, and treated me like a daughter. The idea that we were having an affair would have been laughable if it weren't so damaging. Dr. Reeves, none of that is true. Not a single word. I didn't think it was, she said, and I heard the relief in her voice. The email seemed strange, and it came from an anonymous account. But I have to follow protocol. We need to meet tomorrow morning to discuss this officially. Of course. And Dr. Reeves? I think I know who sent that email. It's part of a larger situation involving my sister. Your sister? I gave her the abbreviated version. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Lauren, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Do you have legal representation? Yes. My attorney is Patricia Chun. Good. Have her contact our HR department. We'll want to document everything in case there are further allegations. After I hung up, I immediately called Patricia, even though it was Sunday. She answered on the second ring. She made her move. Email to my boss with false allegations. Forward it to me. And Lauren, this is actually good for us. It's evidence. Every lie she tells, every false allegation she makes, it strengthens our case. It doesn't feel good, I said. My voice was shaking. I know, but trust the process. By the way, I have some news. I filed paperwork Friday afternoon. There's going to be a hearing on Wednesday regarding the trust fund and Vanessa's attempted extortion. A hearing? Like in court? Yes. Both you and Vanessa will need to appear before a judge. Walter will testify about the forged letter. We'll present evidence of her financial desperation and the threatening messages. The judge will determine whether she's violated the terms of the trust. What if she denies everything? She can deny all she wants. We have evidence. And Lauren, once this goes before a judge, it becomes a matter of public record. Vanessa's financial problems, her extortion attempt, all of it will be documented. She may still be my sister in biology, but after this, everyone will know what she really is. That should have made me feel victorious. Instead, I just felt tired and sad. Monday morning, I met with Dr. Reeves and our HR director, a no-nonsense woman named Pamela Torres. I brought copies of all of Vanessa's threatening text messages, as well as a timeline Patricia had prepared. Dr. Reeves read through everything, her expression growing increasingly concerned. This is clearly a harassment campaign, Pamela said. We'll document this email as a fraudulent complaint and note that it's part of an extortion attempt by a family member. Lauren, I want to be clear, you're not under any kind of investigation. This email has no credibility. Thank you, I said, feeling a weight lift slightly. However, Pamela continued, if your sister continues to contact the clinic or make allegations, we'll need to consider a restraining order. We take the safety and well-being of our staff very seriously. That afternoon, I received a Facebook message from a woman named Diane Pritchard. I didn't know her, but apparently she was a member of Vanessa's country club. Hi, Lauren. I don't know if you remember me, but we met at your sister's Christmas party 2 years ago. I wanted to reach out because Vanessa has been saying some concerning things about you at the club, and it didn't sit right with me. She's been telling people that you're going through some kind of mental health crisis, and that you've been making wild accusations against her. She's painting herself as the victim. I just wanted you to know what she's saying, because it seemed off to me. My sister went through something similar with a family member, and this has the same vibe. If you need someone to vouch for your character, I'm happy to help. I stared at the message, feeling both grateful for Diane's kindness and furious at Vanessa's manipulation. This was her strategy: get ahead of a story, position herself as the concerned sister dealing with an unstable sibling, so that when the truth came out, people would already be primed to doubt me. I forwarded the message to Patricia. Her response: "This is perfect. Save it. Can you ask Diane if she'd be willing to provide a written statement about what Vanessa said and when?" I messaged Diane back, and she agreed immediately. I thought something was wrong. Your sister seemed too eager to tell everyone this story, like she was building a narrative. Tuesday brought more revelations. Marcus called with an update on his investigation. "I've been digging deeper into Preston's business dealings," he said. "It's worse than we thought. Not only are the dealerships in trouble, but Preston also appears to have been making some very questionable financial decisions." "Like what?" "Like taking out a $500,000 personal loan against his house 8 months ago. The loan was supposed to be for home improvements, but I can't find any evidence that any significant work was done on the property. My guess is that money went to covering business losses." "Can you prove that?" "Not definitively, but there's a pattern here. The loan was taken out in July. In August, Preston made a large payment to one of his business creditors who was threatening legal action. The timing is very suspicious." "What else?" I could tell from his tone there was more. "Vanessa withdrew $50,000 from one of her credit cards using cash advances over the past 3 months. Cash advances, Lauren. That's one of the most expensive ways to borrow money. The interest rate alone is probably 25 to 30%. What would she need cash for? That's the question. Cash is harder to trace than electronic payments. If I had to guess, she's either paying someone under the table or she's trying to hide the expenses from Preston. Can you find out what she used it for?" "I'm working on it. But Lauren, this paints a picture of someone who's spiraling. These aren't the financial decisions of someone who's thinking clearly. This is desperation." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my sister, about the life she'd built that was collapsing around her. Part of me, a small, stubborn part that remembered the girl who'd braided my hair and shared secrets with me, wanted to help her. But then I'd remember her text messages, the forged letter, the lies she was spreading about me, and that small, sympathetic part of me would harden into something else. She'd made her choice. She decided I was a resource to be exploited rather than a sister to be trusted. Now she was going to face the consequences. Wednesday morning arrived cold and gray, typical November weather in Portland. I dressed carefully in a navy blue suit that I usually reserve for important work presentations. Patricia had told me that appearance mattered in court, that I needed to look professional and credible. The hearing was scheduled for 10 a.m. at the Multnomah County Courthouse. Patricia met me outside at 9:30. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "That's normal. But remember, we have all the evidence on our side. You just need to tell the truth, stay calm, and let me handle the legal arguments." Walter was already inside the courtroom when we arrived. He gave me an encouraging nod. Marcus was there too, with a folder full of financial documentation. At 9:55, Vanessa arrived with her attorney, Thomas Crawford, the same attorney who tried to find loopholes in the trust. Vanessa was dressed immaculately as always, in a cream-colored dress and a camel coat that probably cost $2,000. Her hair and makeup were perfect. She looked every inch the successful, put-together woman she pretended to be. She didn't look at me. Crawford was a thin man in his 60s with silver hair and an expensive suit. He exuded the kind of confidence that comes from winning a lot of cases. The judge, Honorable Margaret Whitmore, entered promptly at 10 a.m. She was in her early 50s, African American, with an expression that suggested she had very little patience for nonsense. "This is a hearing regarding the Eleanor Mitchell Trust and allegations of attempted fraud and extortion," Judge Whitmore said, looking at both parties. Ms. Chun, you filed this petition. Present your case. Patricia stood. Your Honor, my client, Lauren Mitchell, is a beneficiary of the Eleanor Mitchell Trust, established by her late grandmother. The trust stipulates that both beneficiaries, Ms. Mitchell and her sister, Vanessa Caldwell, will receive their full inheritance of $2.3 million each upon reaching their 45th birthdays. Ms. Mitchell is 42, Mrs. Caldwell is 39. She paused, organizing her notes. Beginning approximately 6 months ago, Mrs. Caldwell began making inquiries about accessing her trust funds early. When she learned this was impossible, she turned her attention to obtaining her sister's inheritance through fraudulent means. Patricia presented the forged letter that Vanessa had brought to Walter's office. This document purports to be from Ms. Mitchell, requesting that her entire trust fund be transferred to Mrs. Caldwell. However, as Mr. Bergman will testify, the signature is forged, and Ms. Mitchell never authorized any such transfer. She then displayed the text messages on a screen. The courtroom was silent as everyone read Vanessa's threats. Furthermore, Patricia continued, Mrs. Caldwell has engaged in a campaign of defamation against my client, sending false allegations to Ms. Mitchell's employer and spreading malicious rumors in social settings. We have documentation of all of this. Judge Whitmore looked at the evidence, her expression unreadable. Mr. Crawford, does your client deny these allegations? Crawford stood. Your Honor, there has been a misunderstanding between two sisters during a difficult family time. Mrs. Caldwell has been concerned about her sister's well-being and perhaps expressed that concern in ways that were misinterpreted. Mr. Crawford, Judge Whitmore interrupted, I'm looking at text messages that say, and I quote, sign over your trust fund by Friday, or I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. That's not concern. That's extortion. Does your client deny sending these messages? Crawford glanced at Vanessa, who whispered something to him. Your Honor, my client acknowledges that there were heated communications between the sisters, but the context... Context doesn't change the words, Mr. Crawford. Does your client deny attempting to forge her sister's signature on a document requesting transfer of trust funds? Another whispered consultation. Crawford's expression was growing less confident. Your Honor, Mrs. Caldwell believed that her sister had verbally agreed to help her with a temporary financial situation, so she forged a legal document. Judge Whitmore's eyebrows rose. That's your defense. Your Honor, if I may, Patricia interjected. We'd like to present additional evidence regarding Mrs. Caldwell's financial situation and the motive for these actions. Judge Whitmore nodded. Proceed. Marcus was called to testify. He presented his findings clearly and professionally. Preston's failing dealerships, the crushing debt, the expensive lifestyle they couldn't sustain, Vanessa's secret credit card debt, the cash advances, the pattern of financial desperation. With each revelation, I watched Vanessa's perfect facade crack a little more. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Her jaw was clenched. Preston wasn't in the courtroom. He probably had no idea this hearing was even happening. Walter testified next, describing Vanessa's increasingly desperate attempts to access trust funds early and the forged letter that had been so obviously fake he'd refused to process it. In my 43 years of practicing estate law, Walter said, I have never seen a beneficiary attempt something this blatant. Mrs. Caldwell didn't just make an inquiry. She engaged in sustained, calculated fraud. Crawford tried to cross-examine, to suggest that mistakes were made or misunderstandings occurred, but the evidence was overwhelming. Finally, Judge Whitmore called a brief recess. I'm going to review all of this documentation. We'll reconvene in 30 minutes. In the hallway, Patricia put a hand on my shoulder. That went very well. Vanessa looks like she wants to kill me, I said. I'd seen my sister's face as we'd left the courtroom, pure hatred. Doesn't matter what she wants. What matters is what the judge decides. When we returned to the courtroom, Judge Whitmore looked stern. I've reviewed all the evidence presented today, and I have to say, this is one of the more clear-cut cases I've seen. Mrs. Caldwell, I'm going to speak directly to you now. Vanessa's head snapped up. You attempted to defraud your sister of a $2.3 million inheritance through forgery, extortion, and defamation. You forged legal documents. You made criminal threats. You spread malicious lies intended to damage your sister's career and reputation. And you did all of this because you and your husband made poor financial decisions, and now you want your sister to bail you out. Judge Whitmore paused. The Eleanor Mitchell Trust contains a specific provision for exactly this situation. Section 7, subsection C states, and I'm reading directly from the trust document, should any beneficiary attempt through fraudulent, coercive, or illegal means to obtain another beneficiary's share, said beneficiaries shall forfeit their entire inheritance, which shall be redistributed according to the contingency provisions herein. I heard Vanessa gasp. Based on the evidence presented today, I find that Vanessa Caldwell has violated the terms of the Eleanor Mitchell Trust through attempted fraud and extortion. Therefore, Mrs. Caldwell, you are hereby stripped of your inheritance. The $2.3 million trust fund that was to be released to you at age 45 is forfeited. No! Vanessa stood up, her voice shrill. You can't do this. That's my money. My grandmother left it to me. Your grandmother also included provisions to protect that inheritance from being misused, Judge Whitmore said sternly. You violated those provisions. The trust language is clear, and my ruling stands. This is insane. She's lying. Vanessa pointed at me. She's always been jealous of my life. This is revenge. Judge Whitmore's expression hardened. Mrs. Caldwell, I strongly suggest you sit down and let your attorney speak for you. Your behavior right now is not helping your case. Crawford pulled Vanessa back into her seat. She was crying now, her perfect makeup running. Furthermore, Judge Whitmore continued, I'm issuing a restraining order. Mrs. Caldwell, you are prohibited from contacting Ms. Mitchell directly or indirectly. You may not approach her, call her, text her, email her, or communicate through third parties. You may not contact her place of employment. You may not post about her on social media. If you violate this order, you will be held in contempt of court, which carries criminal penalties including possible jail time. She looked at me. Ms. Mitchell, the forfeited trust funds will be redistributed according to your grandmother's contingency provisions. Mr. Bergman can walk you through those details. The trust also provides for legal fees to be paid from the estate when beneficiary misconduct has been proven, so your attorney costs will be covered. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Mr. Crawford, I'm also referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for potential criminal charges related to the forgery and extortion attempts. That's beyond the scope of today's hearing, but Mrs. Caldwell should be aware that criminal prosecution is possible. The gavel came down. This hearing is concluded. In the hallway afterward, I could hear Vanessa screaming at Crawford. Do something. Fix this. I'm paying you to fix this. There's nothing to fix, Crawford said, his voice tired. You committed multiple crimes. You're lucky you're not being arrested right now. Patricia steered me away before I could hear more. Let's get out of here. Outside the courthouse, in the pale November sunshine, I finally let myself breathe. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait and see if the DA decides to prosecute. But Lauren, you won. She can't touch you anymore. She can't touch your trust fund. And everyone who matters knows the truth. Her trust fund, all that money, it's really gone. Completely. According to your grandmother's contingency provisions, it will be split between 3 charities she designated: Oregon Children's Hospital, the Portland Women's Shelter, and the Oregon Food Bank. Your grandmother was a smart woman. She knew that money could bring out the worst in people, and she planned for it. I thought about Grandma Eleanor, about her Depression-era mindset, her careful planning. She'd known, somehow, that this could happen, and she protected me from beyond the grave. Thank you, Patricia, I said, for everything. You're welcome. Now go home, hug your boys, and try to process all of this. It's going to take time to feel normal again. She was right about that. The days following the hearing were strange. I kept expecting Vanessa to somehow reappear, to violate the restraining order, to make one more attempt to salvage the situation. But there was only silence. Well, not complete silence. 2 days after the hearing, I got a call from Derek. Lauren, I don't know if you've heard, but Preston called me this morning. Preston? Why would he call you? He wanted to know if any of what Vanessa told him about you was true. Apparently, she'd been telling him for weeks that you were unstable, that you'd had affairs, that you were a bad mother. He wanted to verify it directly. What did you tell him? The truth. That none of it was true. That you've always been an excellent mother, and that our divorce was completely amicable. I also told him about the phone call I got from you asking about the affair accusations. Derek paused. Lauren, I think Preston had no idea what Vanessa was doing. He sounded shocked and devastated. I felt a small pang of sympathy for Preston. He'd married my sister thinking she was one person, and now he was discovering who she really was. How much did you tell him? I asked. Just the basics, that Vanessa had been making false accusations about you. I figured the details were between you and your sister. Well, ex-sister, I guess. I don't think she's legally my ex-sister, I said. But emotionally, yeah, that's accurate. 3 days after the hearing, I received a message on Facebook from Preston himself. Lauren, I owe you an apology. I had no idea what Vanessa was doing. I'm so sorry. I'm also sorry to tell you that Vanessa and I are separating. I've asked her to move out. The girls don't understand what's happening, and this is killing me, but I can't stay married to someone who would do what she did to you. I hope someday you can forgive her, even though I don't know if I can. Preston. I showed the message to Rachel over lunch. Wow, she said. So she lost her trust fund, her marriage, and her relationship with you in 1 week. Seems like it. How do you feel about that? I thought about it carefully. Honestly, I feel terrible. Not guilty. She brought this on herself. But terrible in the way you feel when you watch someone you love destroy themselves and you can't do anything to stop them. You still love her, Rachel said. It wasn't a question. I love who she used to be, or who I thought she was. I don't know if that person ever really existed. A week after the hearing, I got a letter in the mail. Not from Vanessa, that would have violated the restraining order, but from the twins' private school. It was a form letter thanking me for my generous donation. Confused, I called the school. Yes, Ms. Mitchell, the administrator said. We received a donation of $15,000 from you to cover tuition for Olivia and Madison Caldwell for the remainder of the school year. I didn't make that donation, I said carefully. There was a pause. We have a bank transfer from your account dated 3 days ago. My blood ran cold. I called my bank immediately. The fraud department confirmed it. Someone had accessed my online banking and made an unauthorized transfer. They were able to reverse it, but it meant Vanessa, or someone acting on her behalf, had attempted one final theft. I reported it to Patricia, who reported it to the police. This was now criminal fraud, not just a civil matter. 2 weeks after the hearing, Diane Pritchard, the woman from the country club who'd reached out to me, sent me another message. Just wanted you to know that Vanessa resigned from the club. Word got around about what happened, and I think she was asked to resign rather than being officially expelled. Preston has also stopped coming. People are talking, obviously. Some folks are on Vanessa's side. They think you must have done something to provoke her. But most people, once they hear the whole story, understand that she crossed a line. Just thought you'd want to know. I thanked her for the update. It was strange to think about Vanessa losing her social circle, her status, everything that had defined her life. But again, she'd made her choices. 3 weeks after the hearing, Preston filed for divorce. I only knew because it became public record, and Rachel saw it while looking something else up for work. He's citing irreconcilable differences and requesting full physical custody of the girls with supervised visitation for Vanessa, Rachel told me. Lauren, that's serious. Judges don't usually grant supervised visitation unless there's a real concern. I wondered what Preston had discovered about Vanessa beyond what I knew. What else had she been hiding? What other lies had she told? 4 weeks after the hearing, I received a call from a detective with the Portland Police Bureau. Ms. Mitchell, this is Detective Sarah Paulson. I'm calling about the complaint you filed regarding attempted bank fraud and the earlier extortion case involving your sister. Yes. My heart rate picked up. The district attorney has decided to file criminal charges against Vanessa Caldwell for forgery, attempted extortion, and electronic fraud. I wanted to give you a heads up that there will be a criminal trial, and you'll likely be called as a witness. When? Probably not for several months. These things move slowly, but I wanted to prepare you. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time just thinking. A criminal trial meant everything would become even more public. Vanessa could face jail time. Our family drama would be on full display. But it was out of my hands now. The state had decided that what Vanessa did was serious enough to prosecute. All I could do was tell the truth and let justice take its course. December came. The holidays were approaching, and for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't spending them with Vanessa and her family. The boys asked about their Aunt Vanessa and cousins. I told them an age-appropriate version of the truth, that Aunt Vanessa had made some bad choices and broken the law, and that she and I weren't going to be spending time together for a while. "Did she hurt you?" James asked, his face serious. "She tried to," I said honestly. "But I'm okay. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, even grown-ups we love." "Is she going to jail?" Connor wanted to know. "I don't know yet. That's up to a judge." "Good," James said fiercely. "If she tried to hurt you, she should go to jail." I hugged him, grateful for his protective instinct, but also sad that he had to learn this lesson about family betrayal at age 12. Walter called me in early December to discuss the trust fund situation. "Lauren, as you know, Vanessa's forfeited inheritance is being distributed to the 3 charities your grandmother designated. However, your grandmother's trust also included another provision that I think you should know about." "What provision?" "If one beneficiary forfeited their share due to misconduct, the remaining beneficiary, that's you, receives an additional distribution from the estate's growth and accumulated interest over the years. Essentially, the trust has been growing since your grandmother's death in 2009. Your original inheritance was $2.3 million. With the additional distribution, your inheritance will now be approximately $2.8 million when you turn 45. I was stunned. That's a lot more. Your grandmother was very specific about this. She wanted to ensure that the good beneficiary, as she put it, was rewarded for their integrity. Grandma Eleanor, still taking care of me from beyond the grave. "There's one more thing," Walter said. "Because the trust is closing earlier than expected, we're distributing the charitable donations now rather than waiting 3 years for Vanessa's 45th birthday. You have the option to access your inheritance early if you wish." "I can get it now." "You can get it as early as your next birthday. The trust provides for early distribution to the non-offending party if the other party has forfeited their share. I recommend waiting until you're 43 for some tax reasons, but that's only a few months away." I thought about what I could do with that money. Pay off my mortgage. Fund my boys' college educations completely. Maybe even cut back my hours at work and have more time with James and Connor. "Let me think about it," I said. "But thank you, Walter, for everything. For protecting me from the beginning. Your grandmother trusted me to protect her legacy," he said. "I'm glad I could do that." Mid-December, I got an unexpected visitor at work. Preston Caldwell. He was waiting in the clinic lobby when I finished with a patient. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in weeks. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and he'd lost weight. "Preston," I said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. Please." We went to the small outdoor courtyard behind the clinic where staff took breaks. It was cold, but private. "I'm so sorry, Lauren," Preston said immediately. I had no idea what Vanessa was planning. "I swear to you, I knew our businesses were struggling, but I didn't know she tried to steal from you. I didn't know about any of it until after the hearing." "I believe you," I said. "And I did. Preston might be bad at business, and worse at managing money, but he wasn't cruel. She's trying to make me the villain now," he continued, "telling anyone who'll listen that I pressured her to get money from you, that I'm the one who forged the documents. It's not true. When I confronted her about it, she admitted she did it all herself. She was trying to save our family," she said. "Preston, I'm sorry you're going through this. The divorce is going to be ugly. She's fighting me for custody of the girls, claiming I'm financially irresponsible and can't provide for them. She's not completely wrong, but she's the one who ran up $87,000 in credit card debt I didn't even know about." He ran his hands through his hair. "I'm selling the dealerships. All of them. I'm going to take whatever I can get and start over. The house is going into foreclosure. I can't afford the payments anymore. Olivia and Madison and I are moving into a 3-bedroom apartment in Beaverton. They're going to public school after Christmas break." I felt genuinely sorry for him. And for my nieces, who were losing everything they'd known. "Are the girls okay?" I asked. "They're confused. They know mommy and daddy are fighting, and they know they're changing schools and moving. They keep asking why they can't see you and James and Connor anymore. He met my eyes. Would you be willing to see them? I know the restraining order prevents Vanessa from contacting you, but it doesn't prevent me from bringing the girls to visit. I thought about Olivia and Madison, sweet 7-year-olds, who didn't deserve any of this. Yes, I said. I'd like that. The boys have been asking about them too. Thank you, Preston said, visibly relieved. I'll call you to set something up. Preston, can I ask you something? When did you realize that Vanessa had changed? He was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I think she's always been capable of this. I just didn't see it, or didn't want to see it. She's always been focused on status, on appearances, on having the best of everything. When I first met her, I thought it was charming. She had high standards, you know. She pushed me to be more successful. He laughed bitterly. But it was never enough. No matter how much money I made, no matter how big the house was or how expensive her car, she always wanted more. And when I couldn't provide more, when the businesses started failing, I think something broke in her. Or maybe it was always broken, and the money just covered it up. After Preston left, I sat in the courtyard for a while, processing the conversation. I thought about my sister, about the life she'd built on sand, about how quickly it had all collapsed. Part of me wondered if I could have done something differently. If I'd given her the money, would it have saved her marriage? Her life? But I knew the answer was no. The money would have been a temporary fix, and she would have needed more eventually. And more after that. She would have dragged me down with her. Sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to let someone else face the consequences of their choices. It's been 9 months since that hearing. The criminal trial happened in March. Vanessa was convicted of forgery and attempted extortion. The judge sentenced her to 18 months in prison, with the possibility of parole after 12 months if she demonstrated good behavior. I testified at the trial. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, sitting on that witness stand and describing in detail how my own sister had tried to destroy me. Vanessa wouldn't look at me during my testimony. She stared at the table, her face blank. Her attorney tried to paint her as a desperate woman driven to extreme measures by financial pressure. The prosecutor painted her as a calculating fraudster who targeted her own family. The truth, I think, was somewhere in between. Preston divorced her while she was awaiting trial. He was granted full custody of Olivia and Madison, with Vanessa allowed supervised visitation once she's released from prison. Preston sold all the dealerships at a loss and paid off as much debt as he could. He's working now as a sales manager at someone else's dealership, making a regular salary for the first time in his adult life. He told me recently that it's been humbling but also freeing. I don't have to pretend anymore, he said. The girls adapted better than I expected. They come over to my house every other weekend, and James and Connor love having their cousins around. We don't talk about Vanessa much. The girls know she made bad choices and has to be away for a while. When they're older, we'll tell them more. As for me, I turned 43 in February. True to Walter's word, I received my full trust fund inheritance, $2.8 million. I paid off my mortgage completely. I fully funded 529 college accounts for both boys. They can go anywhere they want, and I won't have to worry about how to pay for it. I donated $50,000 to the Oregon Children's Hospital in my grandmother's name. I put the rest in conservative investments that will grow steadily until retirement. I still work at the clinic. I still drive my Honda. I still shop at Target. But I sleep better at night, knowing my financial future is secure, knowing my boys are taken care of. I cut back to 4 days a week instead of 5, which means I get to attend more of James's basketball games and Connor's art classes. That extra time with them has been worth more than any amount of money. I started seeing a therapist in January to process the trauma of everything that happened. It's been helpful. She's helping me work through the grief, because that's what it is, grief for the sister I thought I had, for the relationship I thought we shared. Dr. Reeves told me recently that the clinic received an anonymous donation of $100,000, designated specifically for low-income families who can't afford pediatric care. I have my suspicions about where that donation came from, but I've never confirmed it. Diane from the country club has become an unexpected friend. We meet for coffee once a month, and she's introduced me to several other women who experienced family betrayals of their own. There's a whole community of us. It turns out, people who've been hurt by those closest to them and are trying to figure out how to move forward. I've had no contact with Vanessa. The restraining order is still in effect, and honestly, I don't know what I would say to her if I could talk to her. Maybe someday, years from now, there will be space for some kind of reconciliation. Maybe she'll get out of prison, get therapy, rebuild her life, and genuinely change. Or maybe not. Maybe some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I've learned that I can't save people from themselves. I can't fix Vanessa. I can't make her take responsibility or feel genuine remorse. All I can do is protect myself and my children, tell the truth, and build the life I want. Last week, I received a letter from Vanessa's prison counselor asking if I would be willing to meet with Vanessa as part of her rehabilitation program. Apparently, she's supposed to make amends to people she's harmed. I haven't decided yet if I'll go. Part of me wants to hear if she's actually sorry, if she's learned anything. Part of me doesn't want to give her the satisfaction of my presence, doesn't want to open that wound again. Patricia says I should wait. She needs to prove through her actions that she's changed, Patricia told me. Not just say the right words, because her counselor told her to. So I'm waiting, watching, healing. My boys are thriving. James made the honor roll last quarter. Connor won an art contest at school. They're happy, secure kids who know they're loved. That's what matters most. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that text message that started everything. Give me your trust fund or I'll ruin you. She tried to ruin me. She failed. Instead, she ruined herself. And me. I'm standing in the ruins of what used to be my family, but I'm standing. I'm okay. I'm more than okay. I have my integrity. I have my career. I have my boys. I have my future secured. Last I heard, Vanessa is working in the prison library and taking business management courses. Her parole hearing is scheduled for September. Preston says the girls ask about her less and less. As for me, I'm planning a trip to Hawaii with James and Connor for spring break, something I never could have afforded before the inheritance. We're going to snorkel and build sandcastles and just be together, the three of us. Sometimes I look at the photo that's still on my fridge from 2 Christmases ago. Vanessa and I, arms around each other, smiling at the camera. We look happy. We look like sisters who loved each other. I don't know if that love was ever real on her end, but it was real on mine. I love my sister. I trusted her, and she betrayed that trust in the most fundamental way. But you know what? I survived it, and I learned something important. You can love someone and still set boundaries. You can forgive someone and still protect yourself from them. You can grieve what you've lost and still be grateful for what you have. Grandma Eleanor's trust wasn't just about money. It was about character. It was a test, and Vanessa failed it spectacularly. But I passed, and that's worth more than $2.8 million. That's worth everything.